Hi, third grade. Today I wanted to show you another way that we can kind of monitor our reading progress and make sure that we are working towards achieving our goals. We've talked a lot about setting short-term goals, maybe just for the day to read 1 or 2 more minutes longer than we did the day before. But we also spent a lot of time talking about long-term goals where we discussed how we're going to attack unknown words and what kinds of new genres are we going to try out and how are we going to work to understand those genres. So last week you spent some time really asking yourself while reading, what mind work is the author requiring me to do right now? Is this a part of the text that the author wants me to envision by making a mental movie? Or is this an important part of the text where I need to stop and collect some information that's going to be super important for anything that's coming up next? Today, you're going to spend some time learning about the importance of and practicing some predicting. And what's important when you're making predictions is that you want to have some evidence from the text that you're basing your prediction on. Some clues that the author has given you that has led you to believe that something specific is going to happen. So you're going to be learning more about that in just a little bit. But today I wanted to focus my time with you on this learning progression. And boy, is that a mouthful. But basically what that means is as you learn and progress through different steps of your learning, the skills that you practice are going to look a little bit different. And it doesn't matter where you start on the learning progression. Everybody's goal is to continue moving forward. The thing that you need to keep in mind is to be a little patient with yourself. It reminds me sort of, maybe if I wanted to become a marathon runner, right? I know that we spent some time with a writing teacher last week who said one of our goals was to become a better runner. So she got some tools that helped her do that, like a running watch, and she set aside time each day to practice her running. Well, let's say that I have the same goal, except my end goal is that I want to run a marathon, which is 26.2 miles, which can take people like 4 hours or more to run. I can't start on step 1 of running and make it to my step 5 goal of running a marathon in just one day. I would actually probably injure myself if I tried to progress that quickly. So just keep in mind that in order for you to make it from step 1 to step 3, you're going to need the skills in step 2. That's what it means to create a progression for yourself. So today what I want you to do is look at these different descriptions. I'll briefly read over them. And I want you to decide where you think you're at. Step number 1. As I read, I make a movie in my mind, picturing what's happening. Sometimes the mental movie comes mostly from the words, and then I add in details that are from the pictures. Sometimes I start with the pictures and add in what I learned from the words. I predict what will happen next, drawing on earlier parts of the text. So this is our basic prediction using clues from the text that we're reading. As I read step 2, you'll notice a few more skills have been added on. Step 2, I make a mental movie as I read. I imagine the setting and the characters and the events and the characters' reaction to them. I already can tell third grade the difference between step 1 and step 2. Listen to the details, setting, characters, events, even how the characters are going to react. Then I predict what the main character will do, but not just what the main character will do, what the main character will say, what the main character will think, and how that character is going to react to things. Here's the important part, based on earlier parts of the text. I can explain the reasons for my predictions. When you are in step 2, you are not just coming up with wild imaginary predictions that are going to happen in your text. You can actually use the text and explain your predictions. They will make sense according to what you've already read. Step 3, we're going to add on a little bit more. I make a mental movie as I read, trying to experience the story as it is real life. So now we're kind of stepping beyond just maybe what the characters are going through, and now we're thinking about what it would feel like if we as the reader went through it too. I draw on earlier parts of the text to add to the details in my mental movie. That is, I draw on what I know about characters' traits and motivations, the setting, and the events to envision and predict. I also use what I know from real life about what these places tend to look and feel like. I also base my predictions on my sense of how stories tend to go and can explain my reason for my predictions. Think about all of the things Level 3 has added in just stepping up from Level 2. Now, not only are we predicting all of the different details in the text of the characters and the reactions and the settings, but beyond that, we're using knowledge that we know, our own experiences, and different information that we have about places and people that we've learned. We're also going backwards in the book to think, was there something else that happened earlier that would play a role in my own mental movie or my predictions? Step 4. I make a mental movie as I read, trying to experience the story as if it is real life. I draw on earlier parts of the text. Okay, friends, this is sounding familiar. I wonder when we're going to get something extra in step 4. To add to details in my mental movie of the character's setting and events, I look for clues to help me know the mood and the feel of the actions. I also use what I know from real life about how these places tend to look and feel like. I, of course, base my predictions on what I know about this genre of fictional text. Wow. So beyond just making predictions and envisioning, now you're going to have to say, what kind of fiction text is this? Is this realistic fiction? And what do I know about realistic fiction genre that can add more to the meaning of this story? I predict not just what will happen to the main character, but also to the secondary characters across multiple plot lines, different chapters, different settings. Step 5. This is crossing that finish line of the marathon. I realize that envisioning matters as a way to picture unfamiliar people and places in the book I read. As I read, I draw on films and television shows, real life, my knowledge of this genre, as well as scenes from other books to fill in the movie I'm making in my mind, and to make sense of what happens. I base my predictions on what has happened in the text, my knowledge of the genre, and details I've gathered about story elements. Boy, is number 5 loaded. I think right now I would say I feel most comfortable as I spend time with 3rd grade readers that we're probably going to be somewhere in this 1, 2, or 3 stage, working our way up onto the 4, maybe the 5, as we get better at envisioning and predicting. Be thinking about what stage you think you're at on your learning progression and be ready to share that.